6 again. Again. Redo. What am I doing with this? Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry we missed last week. We
had a little error.
I guess an error.
Technical
difficulties. My computer has lost footage, so we missed a week, but we're back.
Episode whichever is somewhere in the universe. So.
Yeah, it should have been 6, but now it's gone.
No.
But yeah, so today we are switching things up a bit. I feel like all of our thing we've talked about has been like pretty light and just like fun and kind of chill.
Yeah.
But we wanted to talk mental health today. I'm pretty sure September is like, it's either mental health or I think it's suicide awareness month.
Yeah.
But it is one of those.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of people, if not almost everyone, has either, if they haven't experienced anything with mental health or anxiety or depression, they know someone who has. So
100%.
This is a topic that I feel everyone can relate to, even though nobody talks about it, which I don't know why. I know it's like a tough topic to talk about, but nobody talking about it is why no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
that's just the stigma around
exactly,
it. Like,
which I don't understand why there is even a stigma, but yeah, so we're gonna talk about it today and just like share our stories with mental health or like anxiety and stuff like that, and how we've like, I guess, coped with it, or like how we keep it under control, or things that help us and stuff like that if we're feeling those fuck's sakes, those ways. One letter. That's all I missed.
You're close.
But yeah, so hopefully this will be a good one for you guys, and yeah, I feel like everyone can relate to this.
For sure.
So, and like this week, instead of doing questions on our Instagram, or like when you can send in questions, we actually did a poll and just like asking if you have been affected by mental health or you know someone who has, and the last time that I looked at it, it was at like 100% people saying yes. So I feel like it's like very common, even though no one talks about it, but it is like everybody's dealing with it.
Thing, for sure.
So
yeah, I mean, honestly, like I remember being in high school, I had never experienced anything that personally, but like hearing about mental health, I didn't fully understand until it really happened to me.
Yeah, well, because you always like, it's one of those things, and that's why it's so shitty, because when you talk to people about it who like don't experience mental health, or is that even the sentence I want to use? Why is my brain not working right now? But who like, but who don't experience it, or haven't like had anxiety or anything like that, and or seen people go through things like that, I feel they just like literally have no clue, and so until it's actually like happened to you, you don't really know how
to. That's the most relatable.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so you don't really know how to like handle it or talk about it with people if you haven't experienced it. And a lot of the time people are like, oh, you're crazy, or like just like brush it off because they don't have to deal with that, which if you don't have to deal with anxiety or something, lucky you. Like lucky you. But so many people you talk about it, like I've had bosses in the past and it's like, oh, like it wasn't me, but like would be girls who would call in, or like, and they would say and be like, look, like I'm having really bad anxiety, like something like that, and it would be like laughed off, and it's like, yeah, cool, get to work, like, and it's just like so many people don't take it seriously, and it's always the people who've never had to go through it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I've definitely called in for mental health days. Like they don't necessarily need to know the case, but like sometimes you just need those days unexplained. Like
exactly. And honestly, like it's shitty, especially with like work that way, but I feel like I always need to give a reason why I can't come in, which for like the most part, if I'm sick, whatever, it's like, okay, I'm puking, I'm not coming in. But like with that kind of thing, it's like, how do you explain? I just literally, like, you know, if I call my boss and be like, I cannot for the life of me get off my couch right now, they're gonna like laugh in my face and be like, cool, get to work, you know? But it's just like, it's so hard to explain the feeling of, because everyone's different, but also just like trying to explain how you're feeling, because also you're not really understanding it either. Like the random times where I'll just like start crying randomly throughout the day, I literally am like, I don't know why I'm crying.
Why?
I'm just crying right now. Why? Like the other day I worked out, whole time I was working out, I was crying. I was like listening to hardcore tech music, doing squats, crying. I'm like, good thing no one else is in the gym right now. This is so embarrassing. But like, and I'm just like, why? And so things like that, it's so tough to even, like if you have to call into work or like school or whatever, and because people just don't even, like they don't even care.
I mean, I feel like in the school system now, it should be a lot more like, not normal, I guess, but I feel like, like, you know, people actually really do struggle with those things at like a young age. So I feel like schools are maybe a bit more understanding, but like in the workplace, like I feel like, very to little sympathy.
100%. And even like my dad has always, like he was in pipelines and like oil field and everything like that, and he still to this day has a piece of paper, and it's called, what is it called, but it's basically making fun of you for having feelings, and it's like a hurt feelings like form to fill out, but it's a joke, and it's like, oh, have your feelings been hurt today at work? And it's like this whole little thing to fill out as a joke. And so if someone comes to complain about something being wrong or something that happened at work, it's like, oh, here's this form, and like fuck you and your feelings. And that's why like guys never talk about mental health, because everybody, especially for guys, nobody takes it seriously, which is fucked. And like especially guys who work in like camps or jobs like that where you don't see people, or you're just like doing the exact same thing every single day. Like my dad straight up told me that our childhood and him working when we were kids is like a blackout, because he was just in camp all the time, and just that's all he did. Work, go out, go to sleep, work, and didn't see us. And it was just like you're just like stuck in this little like shack sleeping in, like
it's just like within itself, it's kind of like a depressing like lifestyle, you know what I mean? It's not home, it's not like the food that you eat, like it's just nothing about it is like enjoyable. Or,
honestly, it kind of feels like a jail. Because so like when I I stayed a couple nights in camp, and you're literally it's like the size of a jail cell. It's like this tiny little room, and it's a sliding door to share a bathroom with the like person on the next side. And you go to the canteen, get your lunch or whatever that was made. Every day there's something different, but it's just like everyone's eating the same thing, and you honestly feel like you're kind of in a prison. But so like guys don't talk about it. And I know even like my one friend, he was just saying that like they were talking about mental health and stuff at work too, because like a lot of guys struggle with it but don't ever talk about it, and then like people are just like dropping like flies and killing themselves because they're depressed, and you're like and you're like, oh, I have this going on, and someone hands you a form that says it's a joke form to fill out, like making fun of you for feeling that way.
No, I know, it is sad. Like I mean,
and then girls, like if you're a girl and you say that you have something wrong with you, or like you're feeling a certain way, it's like, oh, are you on your period? It's like,
I know.
Not, like it's just never, it's not taken seriously for anyone.
And I mean, it's so frustrating. I mean, even if you go try to like speak to someone like a specialist, you know, it's like there is no other fix than like prescription medication, and that's not even a fix, you know. I'm sure it does help some people, and everyone has like their own opinion on it. Me personally, I have a strong opinion against it, but you know,
well, it's just too, like I know even like when they were trying to figure out what was going on with my heart and all of that, and then it got like down to, oh, it could be anxiety or like panic attacks, and which makes you feel like you're having a heart attack. And so she was saying it was nice because she wanted to like pinpoint other things and try things before, but she's like, there is the option of pills, but I'm like, okay, but I don't want to have to take the same pill every single day for the rest of my life, so I don't feel like this. And now if I don't use those pills, then so now I'm like addicted to these pills, but not really, but to help me feel normal. And I've kind of like gone back and forth, because I'm like, man, I kind of want to try them just to see how it makes me feel.
Like who
because
knows,
I'm like,
really
what if I'm like, oh my god, is this what a normal person feels like?
100%.
But I just also don't want to be taking pills every single day and dependent on it. And I feel like it also helps too with like friends. Like I feel like our friend group is good with it, because we experienced like losing someone really young. Like when Hannah died, I was in grade 8 and she was in grade 9, so it was like all of like my regular friend group. So yeah, what are you, 14, 15? Yeah, I was 14 and she was 15.
Yeah. And
so literally coming to school and finding out that your friend committed suicide, and this person who is like super happy and fun and bubbly,
like, was a dancer, like,
and everyone's just like, everyone always is like, oh, you can see the signs, you can tell the signs, which I think is complete bullshit. Because like my stepmom, her sister like took her life, and she had like some like other shit going on, and she made up a completely fake person and was hanging out saying that she was going to hang out with this person.
Oh wow.
Because that didn't exist, so that she could like successfully take her life and no one would question it, because she was having issues, so they were obviously like making sure she's good and kind of always around her. And that was same with Hannah. Like she was supposed to go to a movie with like a couple friends, and then her mom went out for dinner, her family went out for dinner, and she said, oh, I'm going to the movie, or I'm not feeling good. And then she told her friends, oh, I'm not feeling good, or I'm going to the dinner. And then she just stayed home and she killed herself. And so they came home, and so like,
and obviously if there was signs, like her family wouldn't have like left, or like, you know what I mean? Like there's so many different situations, but like I agree, there's the people that you least expect it, like, you know, even Robin Williams, like such a funny actor. It's because
they don't want people who are actually going to do it, they don't want anyone to know, so that no one can stop them. And so I'm not saying if you come forward and are saying like that's how you feel, that it's just for like attention and stuff like that, but to say that there's always signs that you'll see is so untrue, because a lot of the times there isn't, because they don't want you to know how they're feeling, so that they can actually do this. Because like if I told you I'm gonna kill myself, you'd be every single day, Janelle, where are you, what are you doing, you know? And so it's like, why would I want that if I actually want to do it? So, but that was like the first time that I even like experienced anything like that. And in grade 8 I didn't have like any anxiety or anything like that I can remember. And so it was like a huge shock, because like to the whole school we were like, what the fuck? And I remember we were all like in the libraries, and they pulled like each class and told everybody separately. And but that was like the first time, and so it was just like a shock, because I didn't really understand it. And also too, seeing her as being like a happy person, it was like, why? And but yeah, so that was like the start of it. But I think growing up with those same friends is like, if you want to talk about something like that, they're very open to it, because it's like we all experienced that. Like we spent literally a week and a half, like 10 of us at Matthew's house. We lived there for like 10 days, just like sleeping on the floor together. And so I feel like that.
And it's actually so nice that your guys' friend group has like stuck through, you know, a series of things, like you know, since like such a young age. The fact that you guys like still have each other, it's like, that's nice.
So that's nice being able to have that. So like if I want to talk about like anything like that, it's not the pressure of, oh, they won't understand, or they'll judge me, or things like that. And then too, like since then, that's like made me more like aware of like other people, and like checking on people and like stuff like that, because like you never really thought about it. But so now like that's why I always, like if I get off the phone, it's like, oh, love you, and like stuff like that. Just like small things. And like sometimes I'll text Jada and literally just
out of the blue,
like, how you doing? And just like things like that. Or like we do like our 11/11 and like things like that. So it's just, it's like checking on people. And like that's like in my head now, because of like all of that started like with Hannah, for sure, doing that. But
and I definitely remember that, like my mom texted me, like I was in PWA that year, and I mean obviously it was an eye-opener for me, but I wasn't close to her, so it didn't affect me in the same way that it obviously would have affected you guys. And so I'm actually very thankful that I haven't had to lose someone close to me due to like suicide or drugs in that matter. But you know, it's still an eye-opener, and like I respect it. And then having gone through like anxiety and depression myself, like it's just like I have such like sympathy for people, and like I treat people and look at the world a lot differently because of it.
Yeah, I know. And like that's one thing, is like, yes, sometimes I'm a fucking bitch and I'll be judgmental, but like I always like, I've gotten way better at like letting things go, or if someone is rude to me, I'm like trying to think about
like putting yourself in their shoes.
exactly,
yeah,
and like, okay, why are they being like this? Maybe I shouldn't say anything back, or like maybe they're going through something, and like I don't want to be the fucking person who like just cussed you out and you go home and kill yourself because like you had a terrible interaction with a stranger. And that's why I'm just like, it costs $0 to be nice.
It costs $0
to be nice. It also costs $0 to be mean, but you get it. But I just like, I notice myself trying to be like better with people like that, like strangers and things like that, especially at work. Like if someone's rude to me, like fuck, I would love to just like give it to you,
the fuck out.
Love to give it to you, but I'm like, no.
It's just like a reflection of like, you know, yourself too. Like 100% if I'm having a bad day and like to take that energy like out of the house, like if I'm being rude to someone, it's not even what they've done or what they're doing or like the situation, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, you know, it's like things that are going on in my life. And so I definitely try to think of that, like, oh, they've got something going on, you know?
Yeah, and I'm the same way with that. Like I, like even with friends and stuff, I've gone out and they're like, what's your problem? And I'm like, honestly, I'm just in a bad fucking mood, and everybody can feel it. And so that's why like I cancel, because before I didn't like canceling, and so I would go and then I'm just sitting there and my fucking people battery is dead. Like I had like, you know, when you're out and you're literally just sitting there and you're having a good time, and then all of a sudden you're like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
That's how.
And so like I used to not be like that. I would just like stay out, or I would go out and hang out with everyone, and people would be like, what? Like what's wrong with you? Like why are you not in a good mood? And one, you don't always have to be in a good mood, and that's one thing. Like when I grew up, I was always like a very like bubbly, like
totally
energetic, crazy person. And so as soon as I would not talk for like 5 minutes, everyone's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, can't I just be in a bad mood?
Asking me what's wrong
like,
is now like putting me in
exactly, you know. Or like when I say nothing's wrong and they keep going, well, you're being weird or you're being this, it's like, okay, I'm just being quiet today. Like, am I allowed to be in a non like crazy energetic like how are you doing, let's go do this mood? And it just like gets questioned as soon as, which I mean, it's good that they're like looking into it, but it's like
overlooked.
I'm allowed, exactly, overlooked. I'm allowed to be in a bad fucking mood sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I feel like my mom, she obviously, because I'm not home, you know, like even if I'm like not the most excited to go to work that day, you know, she's like, oh, you sound really bummed. Like, you know, she's definitely always like, she's aware of like my feelings, you know, but obviously she gave birth to me, so she can feel my feelings.
Yeah, so. My mom senses from like Grand Prairie. She's just like,
seriously,
no stress, let me call her.
It's so crazy. There's been like times where like I've cried or just like had a bad day, or you know what I mean, and like when I'm literally starting to like cry, my mom will call and I'm like, she just like, she knew, you know.
Yeah, she's got the tingling feeling.
Yeah, but you know, it's just same thing. It's like some days I just have a bad day, you know, some days I'm tired. Like there's nothing more to it. It's not like to an extreme. It's just like I'm tired, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not having the best day.
Exactly.
I don't feel the best.
Yeah.
One of those days.
Or like when you tell people that and they're like when I wasn't working, well, I was working from home.
Yeah.
So to most people, they thought I wasn't working. I still was. And I would say how like I'm so tired and everything like that. And some people would be like, you don't even work. How can you be tired? This, that. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck if I haven't done anything in a month.
Yeah.
I can still be mentally exhausted
100%.
from other stuff going on. And also too, even when you feel like in your brain that you're not stressed, like if you can't think of why you're stressed or you don't really feel like it, your body still can be stressed and like going through all that without you really noticing it.
Yeah, you haven't really even like processed it yet.
Yeah, and so like some days you're just like feeling like that, but I just hate that when you tell people you're tired and they're like, well, I did this and I'm more tired of this. It's like, why is there a competition when you tell people like, oh yeah, I don't feel very good, or I'm tired from work? It's like, okay, well, you only worked 4 hours and I worked 8 hours, so you're not allowed to be tired.
Yeah, it's like,
okay, cool, you picked your 8-hour job, I picked my 4-hour job, I'm tired.
Yeah,
like,
well, and you also go
and there's other shit going on,
like other people than I know, like, you know what I mean, like you're busy outside of a work life, like there's other things going on in people's lives than just work.
And what you see, it's just like, maybe my brain's going a million miles a minute trying to figure out like shit that's going on behind closed doors that you don't know.
Yeah,
and
which
so,
I mean obviously happens to everyone. Everyone has a life behind like a social aspect or like a work environment, you know.
But that's, I'm like, why is everyone always like, and that's another thing with being like judgmental about it, is when you try and tell people and they're like making excuses for you to not be that way, like oh well, you shouldn't feel that way. It's like, oh, you saying that, wow, just made me feel so much better. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling sad. Well, don't be sad. Oh.
Yeah, okay, I'm not sad.
I'm having a great day all of a sudden.
Literally.
Like,
wow.
like, fuck. But, like, and yeah, I don't think that I have, like, I'm not saying I have a mental illness.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely get, like, panic attacks and anxiety, and which, like, even going to the doctor and, like, all my heart stuff, and then it got ruled out, or, like, some of it being ruled out as anxiety, which even at first I was like, no, like, I don't have anxiety. Like, that's not what it is, but I also never felt it. And so, like, actually feeling it, like, I legit was feeling like I was having heart attacks. Where, like, to the point where I was going to emergency room and shit. And, like, my mom's driving me to emergency room. And then me saying, oh, it's anxiety. And I would always just push it off and like, no, there's no way. Like, I was at work, I wasn't even stressed, it was dead. Like, there was nothing making me anxious. And it's like, okay, but there could be other things going on that you're not even really thinking about. And so yeah, like, I'm not saying I have a mental illness, but definitely have experienced like crazy anxiety, panic attacks. I've definitely been like depressed as fuck. Like, when I think the first time I for real, sometimes I fucking am just tired and I'm in a bad mood and I'm depressed and like, but I'm like joking but kind of not, and like I'll say it to like my mom or something, you know what I mean, like but the first time that I was actually like full on like wouldn't eat, wasn't even sleeping, like couldn't get out of bed, oh my god, was when I had first moved to Vancouver, and it was when I did, when I did Playboy. And the whole, like, my family, other than my mom and like my one sister who like was like, why'd you do it, and like didn't really care, but like my other sister, my dad, like a lot of people I went to school with who I thought were my friends, it was like so fucking hard. My dad didn't talk to me for almost a year. I think it was like 9 months.
That's a long
9 months. Didn't talk to me, and this is when I don't even know anyone in the city. The only people I have is my family, who they don't even live here. And
so that's like always, no matter where you are in life, that's like your comfort.
Exactly. And so like I was just like literally in an apartment every day by myself. I had no money, I had no food, because my dad was helping me out at the time because I was going to school, and the deal was, if you're going to school, I'll help you with food and bills because I just want you to focus on school. And so then, of course, it was when I was in school and he stopped talking to me, stopped helping me with food, all that, where like it got to the point where Jada literally sent me a full box of, it was like a 30-pound box of non-perishable food items that she went to her mom's house and raided her pantry and like sent me food, because I was eating fucking like Mr. Noodles every day. I was so fucking skinny, I had no appetite, but like that was the first time I felt like truly depressed, was I was like, man, I don't have my family, I had my mom, but I was like, I don't have my dad, this is how my sisters are being. People who I thought were my friends were making posts about me on Twitter and like social media and being like, oh, like she's a whore, and like I don't understand how someone could be okay like having this life. And like at first those things didn't really bother me, but it was depending on like who said it. But it was like someone who I was like very close with, hung out with every single day. I was there for her, like very close friends, and then to be going and like saying that. But yeah, and then like a friend who
heavy on the,
but and that's when we were in the group chat too, and I literally called her out in the group chat, like took a screenshot of it, and I was like, what the fuck, man? And everyone, like all the guys in the group chat were like, yeah, fuck you, because it was just like people who I thought were my friends. Or that's when I was really into my makeup, and I had my beauty Instagram, and I was here and I was working with makeup, and so I'm using this as a business. Like I have a whole separate page for that, and people were commenting on posts on my business page and like calling me a whore and like a slut and all these things. And when I was like, oh, I have a new video coming soon on my channel, because that's when I was doing makeup on my YouTube channel, and they're like, oh, is it another porno, is it this? And I'm like, at that point I'm like, okay, I literally did photos. Like, I didn't do a porno, and everyone kept saying I was doing porn and all that, like just blowing it to like the extent.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like the hardest thing for me was definitely my dad not talking to me.
Yeah.
And it was just like I was only going to school. It was 3 days a week was my course, and then I didn't have a job at the time. And so I was literally just in my apartment every single day, like blinds closed, like I wasn't even watching TV. I didn't even have a TV. Like I was just like sitting in the dark, and like I wasn't eating, I wasn't talking to anyone, and I was just like, holy fuck, like, and it was too, like, I'm still getting used to Vancouver, and so it's just gray all the time, and I'm literally just had barely any furniture, and I was just sitting here, just like what is going on right now? And then I started regretting what I did, and then I was like, no, I shouldn't regret it because I enjoyed it. I'm just regretting it now because of how my family's reaction, but I still, like, that's what I want to do, and like I'm still doing it now, and I'm happy. But like in the time, it was just like such a shock because I never thought that I would have my family being like, you're a disgrace, and like to the family name, and you're like just like all of that. Like it was a lot because like your family's supposed to be like who you have, and everyone just like turned on me. And then when I would talk to my sisters and be like, oh, well, dad doesn't talk to me, and it's just like, well, it's your fault and you're not talking to him, and it's like, yeah, but I would send him text or like try to call, and I like asked for help, and just like nothing. And that was definitely the first time that I was like fuck, like
in a slump. It's like one of those things where it's literally like just
like felt it for real.
Over. Like
like it wasn't
gonna be over.
Yeah, like it was like a real. I was like, okay, like I'm depressed as fuck.
Yeah, like what am I gonna do?
And even like with school, I almost didn't finish because you have to have a certain amount of like attendance. Like it doesn't matter what your grades were. I was getting 100% on like all my tests, everything, but you had to be, if you missed a certain amount of days, you had to make up for it. And like I wasn't going to school, and every day everyone's like, where are you? And I had to make up days because I was missing school, and I was full, like I just wasn't leaving my apartment. I wasn't doing anything. And it was just, that was like the only time people saying stuff about me bothered me, because usually like when I say I don't give a fuck what people think about me, I mean it 100%. I don't. And I'm at the point now, like I can actually say that and mean it. But that was like the first time where I'm like, holy fuck, like what people are saying about me on the internet is like actually
like affecting
me. And because it was just like, one, it wasn't even what I did. It was, and they were saying that like the whole porn thing, but it was just like commenting on like my business account and like thing where I'm trying to grow my own
like literally
brand
tearing you down, like
exactly.
You,
and like every day I was having to go, and as soon as I would get a comment, I'd have to go and delete it so it wouldn't stay there.
Just like that constant like stress and like, you know what I mean, you almost get a notification, you feel sick to your stomach. You're like, fuck.
And so it was just, it was like the friends and the family were the hardest thing for me. And then also too, the first time I went back to Grand Prairie, like everybody everywhere I was going was just like staring at me. Or when I went to the den the one night, some guy was like, Sophia Rose, and like just like making fun of me, and I'm like, you are making it seem like I don't know that this is out there. You know what I mean? Like I got paid to do it, I did it, but like it was just, it was, the reaction was fucked. And that's like another thing about living in a small town where it's just people are so close-minded, and it was definitely very shitty. And but that was the first time that I was like, fuck. And I think like, I'm trying to think, I don't think I've definitely been in a slum like here and there, but I haven't had like where I literally like would not leave my bed or my apartment. Like I had like low motivation and stuff like that, but I think that was the only time where I was like, fuck. Well, I guess not really the only time, because like it's so fucked. I don't even know if I'm gonna say it. I don't know. Okay, I think, well, the one night I was wasted, but I was like going through it, and this is like a couple months ago. But I just like super stressed. I was like, man, like I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what I want to do for work, and this and that, and like just like coming down on myself, and like stuff wasn't good here, and like just like with people I knew, and and I was just like, man, like fuck. And like I feel bad because I always told my friends, I was like, look, like after Hannah died, I was always like, how could she do that to us? Like how could she do that? No explanation, like nothing. And I always told like Jada and Matthew, and I was like, oh, you guys don't have to worry about that. And I literally was just, I think it was because I was drunk, so I was like way more emotional too.
100%, yeah.
And like I've learned that drinking fucks with my emotions. Like the day after, I'm like, I'm depressed. The day after, like I feel like shit. That's when I'm like randomly start crying.
Yeah.
And so I say that as I still drink, but it's because like I do have fun. But if I get like wasted, that's when I start getting in my head and I'm just like, what am I doing with my life and all this? And yeah, I was just like home by myself, and I was just like in the bathroom and I was crying and I was staring in the mirror at myself, and I was like, what if I just killed myself? And then I was like, no. And then I like with my little hair dryer, I like put the cord around my neck and I like pulled on it, and I was like, oh, and I like took it off, and I was just like, what am I doing? And like that was like the moment I was like, okay, like I don't want to like not be here, but like I was just drunk and I'm like, oh, like thinking and like just like doing it for like 1 second, and like just like that feeling, I was just like, oh, no. And I was just like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? Yeah. And like I started like freaking out and
like crying even more.
Yeah, because I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah. And I was just like in this weird like mental like space, and yeah, so I told Jada, like I think like a month later I got really drunk and told her that I did that. And but yeah, like I don't know, and like I think about it because I'm like, I don't like, obviously I know that I want to be here. I think it was just because like my mental headspace when I was
100%,
drinking, and I just like went like overboard, and I was home by myself, and I was just like so many things going on. But like as soon as I did that, I was like, this is not what I want at all.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
I know, that's why when I texted you, I was like, I feel like
you're gonna be shocked. Yeah, I am a little like not a little, but I am definitely shocked. But I mean, like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I've never thought things like that before. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, even like though it goes like in your head, then it's just like, I don't know, it's like, it's not that I want to do it. Like I've literally even like been on my balcony, I'm like looking down, I'm like, what if I just jumped off this balcony?
Okay, I know.
And then I'm like, that's such a fucked thing, but like sometimes I'm literally looking, I'm like,
today's
I'm like, what?
Jump.
Like, would I pass out before I hit the ground? I'm just like, you know, like I'm like, what if I just jumped off this fucking balcony?
For real though.
Yeah, it's just, it's weird, like what your thoughts can do
when you're in a low place. And that's why I totally feel like people just, you know what I mean, I feel like sometimes you know, in autopsies, when people like struggle to get out of a situation at that moment in time, they realize that that's not what they want, but it's like too late, you know.
Yeah, well that's I can't remember, I think it was my mom was telling me, but some guy went to shoot himself in the head, and he panicked last minute, and so he like shot off like half of his head, still alive, but now he's just like a vegetable.
Yeah.
Or like a girl that my sister knew fucking jumped off a bridge in Edmonton, lived, and just like fucked her legs completely, and
she's like paralyzed.
I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure she is something, but like or she was fucked for a really long time, like a really long recovery.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and then she said that she regrets doing it. And so like a lot of people do like panic in like the last second, but it's too late because or you end up fucked.
Yeah, I know, it makes me like so sad to think about, but like I remember when I was probably it was probably a year or two after I graduated high school, so I was probably like 19, 20, I was starting to feel like lots of anxiety and like not so much depression, but like I definitely was like got out of a toxic relationship that just like made me, that was when I first experienced anxiety, and I think I had dealt with a lot of anxiety during that relationship, but until we actually broke up and like I was starting to be like crazy, like I didn't truly feel like those anxiety like emotions. But I remember I went to a doctor and like tried to fill out a questionnaire on like just to rate me and like put me on a spectrum of like how much anxiety I actually had and like how depressed I actually was. And like I remember he asked me like, do you have suicidal thoughts? And I said yeah, but I would never do it because I'm too scared to die. And he said that like you think that would be a reason why people don't do it, but that's not the case. Like people that are afraid to die still do it. And so like, I mean, I'd never like put myself in a situation where it was like, you know, ever that severe, but like I've definitely had thoughts of like, oh, you know, life's too hard, or like it's what's the point, or it's like, you know. And so yeah, it's really scary to think, but like, yeah, when you're in a very low place, like I feel like it just crosses everybody's mind. Not everybody, but it's just, it crosses your mind. You know,
like more people than you think.
Yeah.
I know, and I always think like in those times I'm like, oh, I think about like how
guilty for feeling that.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And like also too, like how we felt, and it's just like, oh, she just like left us behind, and like now we're all hurting and stuff like that. Like I just like think about like my mom or like 100%. My friends, or you know, like stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like, it's just crazy how you can get into like that headspace, and you just like right now like talking about it, you're like, oh, I would never do it, and then like there's a night like that and you're just like, what the fuck's going on right now? Like,
I mean, I've definitely been in a situation like a couple times where like, you know, the first time that I'd gone out of like a serious relationship, I was such a mess. Like I would be bawling, like just like I couldn't even pick myself up. Like I would be like literally on the floor, just like absolutely just like broken. I don't know, like there's just been times where I've like had mental breakdowns and just like literally like bawling, like even to Xavier. Like when I remember when I first met him, I also wasn't in a healthy space. Like I was still partying a lot before I met him, and I just like, I was like tired of being in that lifestyle, but like I broke down and I was just like, I'm so depressed, and like, you know, it's just like crazy. Like you don't want to think those things, but it's just like when you're so low, it's just like,
and it's like, and there's so many things that make you feel that way too. Like I know even moving here and just like living by yourself, or like not having 100%. Any friends or that are close by, and just like feeling like very lost. And it's like, just, I know, like I say that like all the time, I'm like, I just feel lost because I'm like, I don't know what I want to do with work, and which we talked about before, like how like I just want to do so many different things, and like I can't decide what I want to do, and I'm just like need money, and like I just by myself all the time, and I'm just like, you just feel like empty 100%. And lost.
Yeah, I remember the first year that I moved here, like I had one friend come and visit me for my birthday, and that was like so fulfilling at the time. But like even still to this day, I've never been home for Thanksgiving. And like ever since my grandpa passed away, my grandma's been in a home, like our family, my cousins are starting their own traditions with like they're having kids and getting married, and like, you know, like just not coming together as a family and not even going home that often. Like it is lonely. Like I knew you, but we didn't even hang out for the first year. Like I was so lonely, and it's just like that in itself is just like, I feel like almost a different kind of depression. Like, you know, it's just like same thing. I wasn't working, like I hadn't even started school yet, and just when you move away, like people don't reach out to you. Like it's like you're irrelevant, like you don't even exist.
Honestly, that hit fucking hard. Like when I moved away, realizing still to this day, I've had 2 friends visit me. So I mean, and I've been here for what, 5 years now, over 5 years. And it's just like so crazy because I was always, when I first moved here, I was going back home all the time, and like once a month I was going back, or every 2 months I would go just for like a quick weekend, and so I got to see everybody, and so it wasn't too bad. But then it was like, okay, well I can't keep going like that often. Like a couple of times my dad paid for my flight, but it's like, okay, if he's not going to, like I can't afford to go there 100%. And spend fucking $700 to go to Grand Prairie every weekend. And like my friends really couldn't afford to come here, and so it was just like I wasn't seeing anyone, and it was just like FaceTiming people, and it's like, okay, weekly FaceTime dates that went to a month, and then just whenever, and then it's like just stop talking completely, or like no one, even too like with family. Every time someone's come to visit me, it's not to visit me. They're in Vancouver for a different reason, and they just add me into their plans. Like when my dad was coming here to get his teeth done or to see the dentist and whatever, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna be in Vancouver for the night, let's have dinner. Or like my mom coming here for a concert, or like my sister came here for a fucking run, and I gave her and her boyfriend my whole apartment, and I went and stayed with Val when like that's when
you were living apart.
And it's just like every time someone's come here, it hasn't even been for me. It's been for their own whatever, and they're just like think to see me while they're here.
Yeah.
Which like I'm not complaining. I'm still happy that I get to see you, but like feels way different when it's like, okay, I'm coming to see you. Like when my mom's like, oh, I'm coming for your birthday. I was
it's just like more exciting, you know? Yeah.
You know, it's not just like
you feel the love.
Yeah. Or when people invite you somewhere and it's like, oh, come if you want, or like, oh, hey, do you want to come with us? You know what I mean? Like it's just like a different feeling.
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't even feel like sincere, like authentic.
It's like, okay, you're asking because I'm there. Like, oh, if you want to come, you can join.
For sure.
But it's like, hey, I'm doing this. Like, do you want to come with us? Like, it's just like it's that kind of feeling, and so it is hard, especially. Well, fuck, when I moved here, I wasn't even legal here. So, like, my friends are all, like, no one has money to travel and be visiting all the time. And so, obviously, it is tough. But it's just, like, like, feeling lonely it fucking sucks. It's just, like, a whole different feeling.
Yeah. Just, like, an empty, lonely feeling. It totally sucks. And it's, like, but honestly, that is, like, one thing that I am thankful for when I moved is, like, I grew into myself. I grew to, like, love myself in different ways and, like, find, you know, like hobbies and things to fill my time that like I just before when I was in GPO I feel like I was like dependent on friendships and I was in a relationship and like, you know what I mean, I was never truly alone, whereas here it just like forces you to grow up and like just like experience things differently and like I just I took on lots of like different hobbies and just like filling my time with things that like make me happy and like benefit me and like
which I found myself doing the same when I first moved here too. Like when I first moved here, I was like going to the fucking museum and like the art gallery and stuff like that, like things that I didn't think I would ever do. But you do learn how to be by yourself in a good way. But then when you still like even like I was okay with being by myself, but there's sometimes like with Val where I had no friends and I was just hanging out with his friends together with them. But like then they go do a boys' night and I'm just sitting by myself and I would literally cry all the time and I'm like, I have no fucking friends, like I have nobody here. And he would always be like, oh well, you have my friends. I'm like, yeah, but those are your friends and it's different because like when it comes down to it, if anything happens, they're your friends, they're not mine. And so like I want someone that I can confide in and like have a fun girls' night with or stuff like that. And so like I would literally just be like, I would cry all the time and be like, I have fucking nobody.
Well, I mean, like, when I moved here, like, my friendships slowly started, like, just dying out. Like, I get it, like, you grow out of people, but,
and
like,
I'm thankful for it now, because I'm like, hey, if you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like, I'll take the L. Like, I mean, I've cut a couple people out of my life, like, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you just don't benefit me anymore, and I've also had people who I thought were friends like show me that they're not friends and like they don't deserve what I think I'm a good friend. Like, you know, I feel like I just feel like I am. So I mean, it's like
I can vouch for this. She's a good friend.
Thank you. So it's just like, you know, I say that all the time. I have two people in Vancouver. It's my boyfriend and you. Like, you know, and I mean, obviously other people that I work with and stuff, but like two people that like I hold close to my heart is like you and X, and so
I know
I'm happy with that. Like I don't even need, you know, my birthday's coming up and I was even talking to my mom about that. Like when I was in GP, I used to have like 30 people at my birthday.
It was always like a big dinner
and like I like being extra like that, but I mean like I want like I want genuine time, like I want like genuine love, and so I'm happy to have like low-key things and like, you know, I feel the love. Yeah,
and I feel as we get older too, you realize that you don't need a large friend group or a large friend circle, and as you get older, it's just like gets smaller and smaller, but it also is more genuine, and like those are like the people that they're legit, like your ride or dies.
Yeah, exactly.
And like all you need, and you don't need all the extras, and like you do have the extras at work and stuff like that, but you have like your work relationship, which is nice and like keeps you company while you're at work, but it's like, are you really, I'm not having you over to cry to you about my life.
They don't know, like they don't know. They
see like the outside, but then you got you're like couple that, you know, if like I call you at 4 a.m. and being like, look, shit's going down.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one time actually. Remember when we watched Powerpuff Girls? I like literally left a hangout hookup. I was like, oh, I gotta go.
We were watching Powerpuff Girls and Totally Spies.
It was
Jerry.
Totally Spies. Yeah.
Cheers.
But yeah, I remember
And we
that. I
were
was like,
just
you
fucking-
texted me, are you home? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I'm not home, but I'll be home at 20. Like, I fucking...
I called, I either texted you or called you and I was crying.
Mhm.
And I was like, look, I need to sleep at your house or something.
Yeah, like...
And yeah, you left your little date.
I wasn't even hooking up with him at the time, but it probably would have been a hookup, but I'm glad, like...
And we just like spent the night so stoned, laughing our asses off,
Yeah.
watching Totally Spies. Oh my gosh, that was so good.
And like looking back now, I'm just like, I have had friends that are like there for me, but like that's what I want. That's what I want is like a good solid friend to like be there, hear me out, like just like, you know. Like yeah, how I had said, I think that I had dealt with anxiety when I was in a relationship, but didn't truly feel it until after I broke up, or our breakup. And actually like a therapist or a counselor that I was seeing at the time, she had kind of brought that to me and was like, do you think that you ever felt anxiety? But like I didn't know what it was. I didn't even recognize it, and like my body just like, I guess hadn't like exposed it yet. Like I didn't even come to terms with it yet. But yeah, like I have anxiety about like my health. Like I'm not a hypochondriac, but like I feel like I've gone through so many things to do with like loss that like health is like my biggest anxiety. And so, you know, I feel like, yeah, when something's going on and I don't know about my health, like it just scares the shit out of me. But like I do not have social anxiety. Like I've always said, throw me in a crowd of people, like I'm totally comfortable in that setting. But like ever since I actually had an abortion at 19, obviously like your body is going through like so many different like hormonal changes and like thoughts. And I remember when I found out, like my boyfriend at the time was like a lot older than me, and like I didn't even give him the option. I just was like, I'm pregnant, like I hope you can like support my decision to like get an abortion. Like
yeah,
I did not even give him like the option, you know. And so it was just weird. Like our relationship wasn't like it wasn't like that serious of a relationship to me really. And so like I was scared to tell my mom, because like growing up she'd always said like, you better not, like, you know, she tried to drill it into my head that like you cannot be like a young teen mom. She just like didn't want that for me.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was like so scared to tell her, and like I was keeping it a secret. I was like so scared and like all these different emotions. And so like after she had eventually found out, and like yeah, she was pissed, but like she was there for me. Like she was my comforter, because at the time my boyfriend was not.
Yeah.
And so that really, like the hormonal thing with my body, that's when I really started to feel anxiety. Like ever since that situation, I dealt with anxiety pretty much up until like the last year. So like a good 4 or 5 years I dealt with anxiety, and it wasn't always like super intense, but like anxiety is crippling. Like the times that I was like shaking and sweating and like, oh my god, it's brutal. Like people that deal with severe anxiety on the day-to-day basis, like that truly cannot like get out of their house and like have social anxiety, like that's why I'm thankful for it, is I can still show up. But like it's just like that was my kind of, you know, introduction to anxiety. But I guess also too, like when I was living back in GP, getting out of that breakup initially, I remember like not wanting to care. I was like, fuck this, I don't care anymore. I want to be like that carefree person I was in high school. And like I was heartbroken, and so I sadly had like resorted to drugs. And so, you know, I did like drugs here and there in high school, and it was never a problem. Like it was just like a high school thing. Like we had fun with it. Like nobody ever had a problem. And so after a couple years of graduation, and like I remember telling myself like I don't want to care anymore, like I just wanted to be carefree, and I started doing drugs and like drinking all the time. Like it was probably like 5 days a week. Like I would still show up to my job, like I was like functioning, but like barely, like sleeping, I'm falling asleep at work, and like just literally wearing the same makeup from the night before. I'd have to be at work for 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd get off work at 6 o'clock at night, quickly go home, change, go party all night long. Like I was doing this like 4 days in a row. I think it was hidden. Like my parents didn't know that I was doing drugs this often, or even at all. Like my parents had no idea. And so they just thought I was like partying, you know what I mean? As long as I showed up to work. I was working for my dad at the time. Like it wasn't like a cause for concern. And so, but then when I started like not coming home for like 3 days at a time, and like, you know, I'm really thankful. I do know who it is now, but like at the time I had a friend like tell my mom, and she was like, please don't tell Jordana, like, but like I'm genuinely concerned for her. And so like after like throughout that whole, like honestly it was like 2 years that I just was like in such a like self-destructive mode. I was hanging around people that did not care about me, like, and that's what I mean when you stop partying, like those people aren't friends, those are people that you party with, like
exactly.
They've never once checked up on me when I stopped doing drugs. Like they weren't like, oh, let's, you know, go for dinner, go for a movie. It was like we always ended up at the same party, or like, you know, they just weren't true friends. And so I remember like when the first like couple months that I was doing coke, like it didn't really have an effect on my body. And then when I guess I became kind of dependent on it, like it wasn't like I woke up in the morning and was like, oh, I need it, but like I like fiend that like party, that like having fun, and like I don't know, at that time wanting to be around certain people. And so when it became like super bad, like the come down, I had never felt more anxiety in my life. Like I could have seriously crawled out of my own body, and truthfully it's because I don't even know what the fuck I'm putting in my body. Like, you know, it was so toxic, and like I wasn't sleeping and eating properly. And I'd kind of like touched on this in a previous podcast, but like, you know, my skin was horrible, like it just showed, like. And so through all those things, like I had gained depression. Like I was still going out and doing these things, but like I was so depressed with like who I was and like the lifestyle that I was living. And then of course, like when my parents found out, like they were beyond devastated. Like, you know, they did everything. Like they never gave up on me, and like they definitely had given me tough love at times, but like they were there for me. They were my rock. Like they talked me through it. And like, so that was like my biggest thing with anxiety, was like the whole like drug use and like lifestyle that I was living. Like my body was put through the absolute ringer. And so when I moved to Vancouver, I had one episode where like my parents knew about it, and I just like, I felt like, you know, I was back at square one. But the time that I had moved here and I like stopped that lifestyle, of course I still had anxiety. Like my body was just like fucked up from it. Like, you know, like my head, just the chemicals even from that, like just my mind was absolutely like all over the place. And so I was also coming to terms with like myself and like getting sober, and like, you know, like I was still drinking, and like, I don't know, I just didn't treat myself the best. And so like through that, like you said, like drinking, still to this day, like I don't do drugs, but like drinking, if I do have a really heavy night of drinking, I have depression the next day. Like I'm just like so like guilty, and I feel like I'm like, I shouldn't be like doing this, and like, you know, why can't I just like go and have a couple drinks and like come home? And like sometimes that is the case, but like,
it's,
you know, I also tell myself like I am in a good place. Like I've grown so much as a person. I'm not a bad person because I went out and had drinks. I'm still only 24 years old. Like I can have fun. Like there's a difference between having fun and also like being self-destructive. I'm not like that anymore. I don't even hang around people like that anymore.
Yeah, you're in a completely different place.
Yeah, and so like, you know, it took probably a good year to like be sober, to like have my body just like level out. Like I feel like I'm just like, I'm not on edge, and I'm not anxious, and I'm like, you know, there's sometimes where I do get anxious, but I think I like make myself anxious. Like, but now honestly I just like, I chill and I smoke weed. And like also too, when I was like going to the doctors and like, you know, trying to figure out why I had anxiety, like I wasn't being honest with them about what I was doing because I was like scared, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, you're doing drugs, like that's so frowned upon. And like, I mean, now I'm honest with people, but I'd gone to like counselors, like I'd gone to like an addiction specialist, and like honestly I feel like I have thought about it, but like I'd love to go see her the next time I was in Grand Prairie, and just like, she probably doesn't really remember me. It's not like I was the most fucked up person to like walk into that building, but like she obviously did get through to me in like ways that like I never could myself, or my parents couldn't. Like she was trained to like do those things. And so like I thank her. And like I went to like recovery meetings, and like a lot of the times my friends didn't even know that I was doing these things because I was like embarrassed. I actually lost all of my high school friends because they're like, we don't want to hang out with her. Like it's not like I was doing like Molly once every couple months. Like I was really doing drugs a lot, and it's actually really sad to think about because that's not who I want to be, and like it's not who I even wanted to be. But like, you know, you just get caught up in it, and it's a scary, like, sad thing. But yeah, I've seen psychiatrists and therapists and drug specialists, and like I've gone to meetings, and like, you know, I feel like people should never feel like ashamed of like going to get help. Like those people are like specialists in what they do for a reason. And so like,
and even if you feel like you don't need help, like a lot of people feel like they don't need help, and you feel like you don't have any issues, like seeing someone is never gonna make you worse.
No,
you know,
exactly.
Like I keep telling myself, I'm like, oh, I need to go see a psychiatrist, and like I still haven't done it, but I'm like, I know I need to go, but I still haven't done it.
I mean, you know, and maybe that's just like a way of like you're not ready, or like, you know, but yeah, there's nothing bad about it. But like for me, the biggest step and the first step was like admitting that I needed to go see somebody. And like even after then, I had slipped up multiple times, like, and you know, my parents didn't even want me to move to Vancouver. They're like, oh my god, like the drug scene, the party scene there is like so much worse, and like they just didn't have trust in me to move here yet. But like in hindsight, it was the best thing that could have ever happened. I remember like we would kind of have like a little family intervention like at our kitchen table, and like I would be bawling, and like my mom was like so sad and scared, like, you know what I mean, like she's like, you're everything that I have, like, and so she just wanted me to get help and like get better. And so when I like, you know, made those first steps of like, you know, applying to go to school, and like, you know, those were all exciting things that actually made me not want to do those things. Like I had a purpose and like a will to like work towards something rewarding. And so yeah, when I first moved to Vancouver, like I begged my parents, like I just want a fresh start, I want to get away, I want to like, you know, just that's how I felt. Like I wanted to like run away. I didn't know how else to get away from it. But moving to Vancouver was like the best thing that could have happened. Like my parents tell me that all the time.
Well, you get out from, because like so many times people try and stop, especially with like drugs and stuff, because like you hang out with the same people, and so if you're still hanging out with the same people who are still doing all those things and you're trying not to, you're just gonna fall back into it again.
Exactly.
And so getting away and being like, okay, now those people are nowhere around, like I don't have that influence or anything, that pressure, and you can make new friends and like make it clear that you want to be like, you can find people who don't do those things.
100%.
And so like even when I meet people now, I'm like, I don't do drugs, so like I'm just letting you know that now. Like exactly. I don't, so there's no issue
exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't know, that's the thing, is like I don't even party like that anymore. And so like I don't know, I guess I'm here, I would say like, oh, if you wanted to do that, like so be it. But like at the end of the day, I don't even want to be around that. Like it gives that, being around drugs like give me anxiety. Like weed, no, I actually like, I like weed, I like kind of like those more natural things, and that's like something that I use to cope, is like essential oils and just like natural remedies, you know, like I don't want to be put on like a prescription medication. But there was a time, like the first year that I lived in Vancouver, I had a friend who obviously, you know, I thought was a friend. I was like super excited to like go to new clubs and stuff like that, but like I felt if I was hanging around this person, I would have like easily fell back into like my old habits. And so with no explanation, like one night we went out, I was kind of put in a shitty situation, and ever since then I've never talked to him again. Like, and he even tried to reach out to me a couple times, and I just was like, you don't even deserve an explanation. But like you know, you just at some point have to like protect yourself and like your own energies. And like, yeah, just like I had done too much work. I put in too much work to like let one night or one person like put me back. And so yeah, I don't know, I've cut people out, and yeah, I don't know, don't have time for that. Like,
no, you have to do it.
Yeah,
that's like the only way to, it like sucks in the time, and you don't realize in the moment that it's going to be good for you, but then once you go a little bit, you're like, hey, that was good that like I did that and I got rid of those people.
Exactly. Like when I was partying, like I just wanted to like party and like not care and like have no responsibilities. And like, you know, some of those people now 3-4 years later are still doing the exact same thing. And it's just like, you know, that's your life. But like, yeah, for me it was like I had to move away, I had to get out, like remove yourself from that situation. And you know, it's a lot easier said than done, but for me it's just like you can't associate yourself with that. Like I just really don't. Like I know the person that like I want to become, and so like working towards that, it's like it's really hard to get the things that you want, and it's like so easy to throw your life away. But like, you know, that's why it's like hang around people that have like goals and dreams and like, you know, hard work ethic and stuff like that, and like just like support you and like the positive things that you do. So
that's so true. It is so fucking easy to just like throw your life away. Like even with like working out and stuff, which is a huge thing of like working out before I just like always liked being active because it was fun, but like
Yeah.
now working out for me is like a huge coping thing. Like helps with my anxiety. Like if I'm ever feeling down, even if it takes me like 3 hours to get myself in the gym, once
Yeah.
I'm done, I'm like, oh, I feel amazing now.
100%.
But like the amount of times where I'm just like, I'll be making really good progress and then I won't go to the gym for like 2 weeks because it's easier. It's easier to not go.
Exactly.
And like that's why I got
It's easier to eat like shit. It's easier
Yeah.
to like go and drink than stay home and say no and go to the gym
Yeah.
and make good choices. Like,
things that are good for you and that are gonna like help you in life are fucking hard. They're challenging. Like you have to work towards them.
but they're more rewarding.
Way more rewarding. Yeah. But yeah, like the gym, that's a huge coping thing. Smoking weed for me is fucking huge.
Honestly, fuck yeah, I love weed. I'd rather smoke weed than go out and spend $200 and drink and feel like shit the next day.
Yeah.
What's the worst?
Yeah, I'll just smoke weed and order $100 of food.
100%.
But,
I would way rather a night like that than, you know, don't get me wrong, I still love to dress up and go out, and I'm so thankful that now, like, I do have, you know, more control. Like, when we go out, you know, it's like, oh, 1 or 2 drinks, but like, I've never had to ever worry about being in a bad situation with Janelle, like, you know, like, so.
Yeah, we're just always having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I fucking love smoking weed. And like,
Yeah.
before I used to never feel like I needed to. And now, since, has it been like 2 years already? I think it's been like over 2 years since like what happened at the gym. But like, did I ever tell you that? Yeah, I told you that, right? The guy at the gym.
No.
But it was like 2 years ago, I think now, 2.5 years ago. It was when I was living on Davie Street.
Okay.
But I was going to the gym on Burrard, and some guy was like following me around the gym for like hours, and I think I was there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he followed me around the gym the whole time. And then when I was in the parking lot, he tagged me in the parking lot and was like dragging me through the parking lot, like legit trying to take me.
Stop.
And some guy who was also coming down to the parkade, like totally like took him out. Yeah, seen it. And so since then, because like the cops showed up and everything, like it was a whole thing.
I never knew that.
And I think it happened when you were living here, obviously, but we weren't hanging out.
Okay.
And so that's when I worked right where, like, obviously my downtown is like close.
Yeah.
But that's when I worked at the Capitol, and I lived a minute away, like a minute walk. So you could follow me for a minute and find out where I live and find out where I worked.
Yeah.
And that's when I was working late nights. And so the cops were asking me, like, oh, was he just in the gym, or have you seen him before? And when I thought about it, I'm like, I don't think I've seen him before, but they were like, we're pretty sure he's been like following you for a while, because he parked his car beside my truck so close I couldn't even get into the door. And so he knew my vehicle, and usually I never drive to the gym, but it was just because I wanted to get there before it closed. And so I drove to the gym. So now I'm leaving my house, I'm walking to the parkade where my truck's at, and so now they know from like where I lived, now where my truck is, what my truck looks like, follow me to the gym. When I parked there was not that car there beside, so they parked there after I had parked there, that close to my vehicle, followed me around the gym the whole time. And then when they were asking me these questions, I was thinking about it, and I was like, now that I think about it, he never did one exercise. He was just always around. Like I never seen him do like anything. It just seemed like he was like waiting for a machine at all times.
Wow.
And so then when I was walking down to the change room, I seen him like coming behind me, and so I stayed in the change room for probably like 35 minutes, and then they were closing, so I left. He wasn't around, and kind of like dumb on my part, but I just didn't think about it like when I got to the parkade, because I'm like, oh, I just thought he was like a weirdo at the gym, whatever. And so then I get down, and this car is right beside my truck, and I'm thinking, I'm like, who the fuck parked like this? Like, I'm so fucking pissed off, and the gym's closed, the parkade's empty, there's like one other car, and it was Buddy who fucking was coming down. And so as I'm looking, he like came from behind me and grabbed me and was like literally dragging me by my arm, and was like dragging me through the fucking parking lot, and I was losing my shit. And it was winter time, I had my winter jacket on, and I had like bruises all over my wrist just from like how hard he was pulling me. And so yeah, it was like whole thing. So they were questioning me about that, and so he was like, obviously it's not 100% because he's not gonna say anything, but they were like very convinced that he had been following me for a while. But after that happened, like I couldn't sleep because every time I would sleep, I would have a dream of like if that guy didn't come into the parking lot and like he pulls me into a corner, rapes me, or takes me in a car somewhere, or kills me. And so like every time I would try, like I wasn't getting any sleep. I was falling asleep at work because I was just staying up all night, and I was just like fucked. I wasn't going out at night unless I was with somebody, and I like started working day shifts so I could be home at night, and like I wouldn't go and do anything, and I was like super freaked out, and still to this day I am. Like I'm very like aware.
You have to be, yeah.
But like that's why I have to be aware. But since then, that's what really, now to this day, where I'm like, I need to smoke weed to sleep. Like that's what puts me to sleep. It takes away my anxiety. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel chill. I'm laughing my ass off. I'm just like, I feel good. I'll be painting or whatever. Like I just like, before I was smoking it for fun, and then I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I literally like need this. And like still to this day, like if I fall asleep and don't like smoke weed before bed, like I'll have, it's been like 2.5 years since then, and I'll still have like that dream like over and over again. Like it like fucks me, and that's when like I know like I need to see like a psychiatrist. I need like, I have like my parents divorced, and my mom started dating my teacher, and I'm living with my teacher, and like I have just like so much shit, 100%. Which I talk about stuff, and like I don't have an issue talking to people, but like I'm talking to my friends, and so I'm like, I feel like I need to like see a fucking professional
for sure.
But no.
they dig deep, man. Like same thing. I mean, everyone has traumas, but like they will get.
Yeah, even my dad, he's like, I never said I wanted to go to one, and then he finally started going, and he's like, she's getting stuff out of me that I didn't even think I had in there.
100%. Honestly, every time I went to my drug counselor or therapist, I came out of that building crying every time, but it's like such a relief. Like you do feel good.
No,
like,
I need to do it, I really do. And so that's like my next step, is to like actually, like this year I just like wanted to get good with like health and like mental shit, and just be like I know I got like shit going on, and so I'm like, I need to actually do something about it now. But
I mean, mental health is hard. There's so many like physical, emotional, mental, like there's so many things that to keep up, you know. It's like, I think it's hard to believe someone that they say they're completely fine.
No, exactly.
Whether it's like stressors in your life, relationship, friendships, like it's hard. There's a lot. And so, you know, I think just like even experimenting, trying those kinds of things, like it's like you said, there's never gonna be like, it's not gonna make anything worse.
Exactly. So but yeah, definitely weed and a therapist.
Weed, a therapist. I recently started smoking weed again because, like I said, episode 5, for 2 years, man, I was just like paranoid, so uncomfortable, but it's because I already had anxiety. Like, you can't be like anxious, smoke weed, and expect it to like go away, in my case. But now that like, honestly, I never experience anxiety, and it's like I've taken a few steps back, and like I like chill out. I'm like so much more chill in my life now, and so I enjoy smoking weed. Like I'd rather smoke weed than go get fucked up. And
which is good.
I love essential oils, a good massage, like anything like holistic, therapeutic. Like I'll even have a bubble bath and like dim the lights, put on spa music. Like I love that shit. Obviously, like
spray some like a eucalyptus spray.
Like literally, like rub my feet. Like I just like, I would actually open a spa. Just for that reason.
I'll do the facials.
Literally. Sometimes I'm like, you know, like what is my calling in life? And I feel like I have to like overcome all these things with like a holistic route. And I feel like I'm like, maybe that's like, you know, something I'm meant to do.
All right. Well, today was definitely a longer one. So hopefully you made it all the way to the end. But we just wanted to talk about mental health because no one talks about it, and just like if you feel a certain way, there's definitely things that you can do to help, or see people to help you, or talk to friends, family, whatever. But there's always something you can do to help yourself. So it's just like a matter of finding that and knowing that literally almost everybody has dealt with some kind of thing to do with like mental health. So you're like the farthest thing from being alone. For sure.
Exactly. And I think it's actually really nice when you see, you know, an influencer or someone that's a bit bigger on like Instagram, and they say, sorry, you know, I've taken some time off to like focus on my mental health. Like seriously, you guys,
not everyone's perfect. Not everyone has a perfect life. What you see on social media It's not fucking real. It's like the best of the best of that person.
I'm guilty. I do that. Like, you know, so it's nice that, you know, I'm being real and raw with you guys on our podcast.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Today was, that's what it's about. That's what we're here for. To let it all out.
To support mental health.
Yes. Fuck yeah. Well, all right. And I think that is that. All right.
Well, that's our next episode.
Unless we lose it. And that is that. Bam.